I wanted to take just a minute to show you what contract riders look like if you haven't seen this. I know in your other class that Shaughnessy teaches, I'm sure you've covered every possible legal aspect, including contracts. So I'm not going to get into contracts per se. I am going to just show you a little bit about riders, though, because riders are part of the contract. And in fact, it says that in this one right here, rider attached to and hereby made a part of contract. This particular one is a very short one compared to a lot of them that you'll see. This one was for Glenn Campbell. This was a show I did actually back on his last tour in 2012. Um, and some of the things that are in it, of course, we're not going to go through all of these little things, but as you can tell, they do have very specific things, excuse me, that they ask for. And one of them is they ask for creative control. And the producer is, of course, the artist and his company. They are the ones that put the in their mind and in contract language. They're the ones that put the show on. The purchaser is you or me or whoever's buying this talent, or the venue or the promoter or whoever it happens to be. We are referred to as purchasers in contract language. Supporting attractions are, of course, the opening acts. And it says here that they must be approved. And in Glenn Campbell's case, it was Glenn Campbell's family who had to be approved. They were the opening act. His daughter and son and all of their friends played together. So there is a lot of information all about recording and photography, uh, indemnification, all of this sort of stuff. But what I want to get to is there are really two types of riders. One is the production rider, which explains all about what they need for production. And I apologize, I don't know why WB Entertainment is sending me emails, but well, I get 100 of these things a day. Uh, but the other one, of course, is the hospitality rider. And the hospitality rider tells all about what their particular needs are in terms of food and hotels and all of that sort of thing. Um, so, getting down to, well, here's interesting. This is the billing that they have to get. Glenn Campbell gets 100%, and the Goodbye Tour has to be in 50% type. So there's all kinds of rules and things that you have to go through. And for this particular one, I had to use their own advertising material that I had to get from them, and it was cheap. It wasn't free, but it didn't cost a whole lot of money, so it wasn't too bad. You can see that they request a certain amount of ground transportation, and they tell you exactly what they need and what they have to carry. Here, that you have to have a runner with a 15 passenger van. Runners um, usually have to do all kinds of different things. They have to run errands, they have to do laundry, they have to do any number of things. You'll see here that it has the producer's federal tax ID. The tax ID, of course, in lieu of a individual social security number, this would be the company's federal tax ID, and you'll need that because you do have to report any income that you give out to bands. You do have to report on 1099 forms, so be ready to do that because that is part of the law. Um, there are things they request certain insurance. Let's see. Force majeure, of course, I'm sure that you know, is an important part of any contract, and it tells what happens if for some reason the artist is there and ready to perform and doesn't because of the venue. It tells what happens. It also tells what happens if the artist cannot get there and cannot perform. This is sometimes referred to as the act of God clause because frequently the reasons that shows can't go on or are because of what is known as acts of God, such as a tornado, a hurricane, a flood, whatever it happens to be, an ice storm. It could be just about anything weather related. And then we get to the production requirement. You've heard me speak of backline, and backline would be instrumentation and things that the artists need to play, but that they don't carry with them. In this instance, there was quite a bit of it, as you can tell. There were certain amplifiers that they had to have. Um, there were certain keyboards that they had to have. There were all kinds of different items here that they requested. A set of drums, and it has to be a particular kind of set of drums. Um, 8 music stands, all these things that they have to have in order to put the show on, that in this instant the promoter or the venue would have to require. For international tours, you have to require this other stuff, but we didn't have to do that because they carry this with them. That is their mostly their wireless microphones and their wireless guitar packs and their wireless monitors, the ears, as we call them. Um, then you get to the sound requirements, and you can see that they have very specific things that they want for the house sound. This one was a big deal to them. They had to have this exact mixing console, and I had to get it from somewhere in Arkansas. I had to have it shipped over. And the reason for that is because in this day and age, in the digital world, the show is already done, and they save the show on a thumb drive. And wherever they go, they use the same console, and all they have to do is plug their thumb drive into the console, click a button, and their show is in there. So they don't really have to do anything with it except tweak the sound and tweak a few things. But for the most part, it's already done. They don't have to design their sound for the show uh, every time they do a show. They just do it once and then just plug it in. So it's pretty easy to do. Um, Here's microphones, acceptable microphones, all sorts of interesting stuff here. And then, of course, lighting. They have to have 2 spotlights. They have to have lots of different things here. And it talks about dressing rooms, and every group has to have a production office. This is where the tour manager hangs out and takes care of all of his business that has to be taken care of, and where he advances upcoming shows. It's usually busy the whole time, so that the production office is important. They do have to have somewhere, and it has to have internet connection. It says here fax machines, but nobody uses fax machines anymore. But it definitely has to have internet service and probably a printer as well. And there's all kinds of things about security, blah, 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 blah. Um, Depending on the show, you have to have a forklift, you have to have um, stage crew. As you can tell, they require 3 crew for the light, 3 for the sound, a bunch of deck hands, a bunch of loaders, um, all kinds of different things that you have to provide. And this was really, really a very easy show because they didn't carry a lot of lights with them. I can show you some riders that are extremely huge. Their production rider, which is listed here under catering, it was very small actually. You can see that there has to be some stuff provided at load in, and then they have to eat dinner, and they do carry about 20 people with their crew, so it's a lot of people, and you have to feed them all and take good care of them. And that's what it looks like. That's basically what a rider is. It's not anything too dramatically terrible. It's pretty easy to do, actually. But a couple of other things that have to be included in riders, particularly the technical riders, uh, would be an input list. And an input list might look a lot like this. You can tell that it's got every input that this particular act, whoever this was, needed, and that included several inputs for drums. In fact, it took 10 drums, and it said what mics they wanted on it, and how the mics should be held. Inserts, these are effects that you would put on the channels, and if you don't know what those are, I'm not going to go into it, but you'll figure it out if you do it long enough. Then guitars, keys, and then vocals down here, and these are other effects that are on there, and these are all important to bands. So get used to that. But this is what an input list would look like, and they use 32 channels. And it's a pretty small input list. They get considerably larger than this. And then there is the stage plot. This is one right here that I did last year, I think, for the DMI All Stars, which is our group, the group that I direct here at Delta State. And this is at a website called TechWriter, TechRider.com. There's no H in the TechWriter. And you can make your own online. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is drag what you want in place. And you can tell by looking at this. In the back, there's a guitar, there's drums, and there's a bass. The bass needs power. The guitar needs power, and they all need monitors. And then there's two keyboards that both need microphones and both need power. And they both need DIs, which is the way that keyboards usually access a PA system. And then there's 4 mics across the front with 2 monitors. So it's pretty easy to see, and it's really easy to do. And it also will make a list for you down here of all of the things that you need. And you can put notes in and all sorts of different things, what kind of music stands or mic stands are needed, all sorts of things that you can do. And if you were going to do this, let's see, we'll make a new one here, so just to show you how it's done. It's very, very, very easy to do. All you have to do is take whatever you want and drag it into place, and all of a sudden, so you have a guitar, and you can change the size, and you can change the rotation of it. You can do all kinds of different things. This is a free program, so if you're interested, if you ever have to make a stage plot, this is the best way to do it. So give it a shot sometimes.